Live from London, it's Plank of the Week with Mike Graham.
Welcome to Plank of the Week. It's Friday night, and of course, we are here for your delectation. It is the one show where you don't have to worry about being judgmental because we do it all for you. Jeremy Kyle is here, Candice Holdsworth is here, Steve N. Allen is here, and Mark Wogan returns with a leather jacket.
Chuck, the producer, said I look like the fog.
Yeah, well, he would know. He's the TV expert.
Isn't he?
He really is. Speaking of TV experts, here's Jeremy Kyle.
Where do you start with?
Well, I mean, you know, he started off at the end of last week, right, with his hand on the shoulder of the president.
Bit creepy.
Very creepy, on the president of the United States of America.
Like a Reiki
In fact, we should have a look at that.
Oh, let's look at this. This is really creepy.
And I mean, I just think that's one of the worst things I've ever seen on
Slightly
television.
weird.
Really horrible, right? Just
Well, hold on a
awful.
second. Hold on a second.
Creepy. The linger is creepy.
Yeah.
Can I just jump in? It was the worst thing I'd seen on television until the Meghan Markle thing.
Oh, yes. Well, we'll come back to
talk about that later.
We'll come back to that.
So there was that, and there was that. I'm never going to win an Oscar when he went, I've brought you an invite from the king, and kept looking at him. And then, of course, you know, that big announcement some weeks ago, but I'm going to spend more money on defence. No, you're giving away the Chagos Islands. You're giving away 9 billion quid. You're screwing everybody in this country. And apparently that's OK. An extraordinary man. As if that wasn't bad enough, he's borrowing more money to buy and send air missiles to Ukraine.
Did you see that other ridiculous moment where he and Vladimir Zelensky, who came to London after being chucked out of the White House Oval Office, were standing over old Richard III, who's sitting at the table like this with a pen, signing away £2.26 billion of our money. Yeah. Right? She claimed it was reclaimed from Russian assets.
Richard III, of course, is.
Richard III is, of course, Rachel
Reeves.
Yeah. And she said, don't worry, this is not taxpayers' money. This has been reclaimed from Russian seized assets. But, of course, they haven't reclaimed any of that money.
Well, honestly, if they were going to do that, why didn't they do that and pay for the pensioners to actually be warm this winter? I'm not against doing what we're doing, but I have to say one thing about the whole Trump thing, because Starmer pretended, didn't he, to be, I'm going to fix this all. Right. You said this morning, you know, he sort of ended up as the naughty little boy in the corner. Nobody gives a toss about.
Well, yeah, because they've all passed over him now. It's all been done in
Trump,
Washington.
to me, and I know certain people on our station have got quite angry about this, but to me, it's patently obvious that with Trump, occasionally you need to doff your cap or ruffle his feathers or say thank you, which Starmer attempted and Macron did. Zelensky didn't, right? Yes. But 96 hours after the worst thing ever and everybody getting really wound up, oh, lo and behold, Zelensky's going to do a deal anyway, and Starmer gets left looking like an absolute pudding. On top of which, by the way, the one thing the British people are bothered about, far more, I have to say, I think, than the Middle East or Ukraine, is that still this government, much like the last government, cannot in any way make an answer of how we deal with illegal migrants. I think it was Wednesday, or maybe it was Tuesday. Highest number daily this week, this year, 600, making 2,500 in 2 months. I'm going to smash the gangs. No, you're not, you idiot.
They are waving because they're all happy.
Yeah, because they're coming in. So he's got massive problems in this country, right? Massive problems with immigration, with veterans on the streets, screwing the farmers, bloody net zero, and where energy prices going through. He's pretending to be this superhuman sort of, you know, international statesman. And basically, I'll try not to use the wrong word, I think that Donald Trump's made him look like a right...
He has.
Yes.
He really has.
A complete and useless plank.
Apart from anything else, one of the last things he said on the Sunday, after he'd arranged this Euro summit of the, coalition of the willing.
Coalition of
or as
willing.
I now call it, the coalition of the unwilling, or coalition of the wilting. Because, in fact, one of the last things, we must continue to keep aid going into Ukraine. On Monday night, he has a conversation with Trump. Trump doesn't even tell him that he's going to cut the aid. And so Starmer's left once again in the dark, waking up in the morning, like the rest of us, reading the news in the newspaper.
To me, out of his depth, mate. Plank of the week by a mile, sorry. Just useless.
What, again?
Well, you say again, listen, that's our Prime Minister.
But it's our Prime Minister. Danny Dyer has some interesting things to say about it. I don't know if you saw this at the Brits this week.
If we were giving out a Brit Award for your the year, who would win the Danny Dyer door?
Well, so many. Let's have it right. The world is being run by cranks at the moment, so probably Sir Keir Starmer.
Okay, right. We're going to get a little...
What's the woman? Sorry. What's the woman dressed as a horse?
As a horse?
What is that?
I don't know. She's running in the 3:30 Newbury.
The Cheltenham Festival next week.
Can I just say, I went to the world premiere of Danny Dyer's new movie last week.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is this the Marching Powder? Yes.
Brilliant.
Is it good?
Yeah, brilliant. Very funny.
Now, we've got some more stuff for you. Just in case you wondered whether people in America are still mad about Donald Trump, check this out. This is a Trump hater who seems to have transformed herself into Volodymyr Zelensky. She hates Trump so much that this is what she's decided to do.
That'll really...
But interesting...
That's going to make a hell of a difference, that.
Interesting that you said this to me earlier in the week. His approval rating in America continues to rise. Which says to me one thing. He got elected to sort out, make America great, make them strong, make them richer. The American people are loving it.
They love it because also it's all about, for him, saving money. And this waste that he keeps finding everywhere is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, he's found out that they're paying people Social Security money after they've supposedly aged up to 150, 160, 170.
And that would just happen in the United Kingdom. Nobody would do anything about it, right?
Nobody knows.
What was the thing he said? He goes, I've saved 1.8 billion on LGBTQ education in Lesotho.
Right.
Lesotho. He couldn't even say it.
Couldn't say Lesotho.
And he's like, which someone nobody's ever heard of.
Never heard of it. Yeah, exactly. It's funny because after he said, we seem to be paying money to people who are 200 years old, he goes to Robert Kennedy Jr. and goes, we've obviously got a healthier country than we thought. He's cracking jokes at the same time.
I think he's different gear, sir.
In case you think that things are bad there and here, though, check out what they do in Serbia in the Parliament when things kick off. This is they threw smoke bombs. They got a few flares out. When I saw this, it made me think of those. Remember those old European football matches in like Dynamo Zagreb, places like that, or anywhere in Croatia.
Sorry, they launched a smoke bomb in the Parliament.
This is in the Parliament. It's like, what do you think of this amendment to the tabled bill? Have some of that.
That's like
imagine in the House of Commons. The right honourable gentleman, take that, it's straight down his throat.
That is reminiscent of Galatasaray away.
It is very much. You expect Graham Sinestro to plant a flag in the middle of the pitch.
It also looks like some paratroopers just landed on a display.
Yeah,
when they have the smoke coming out.
Maybe they had.
Maybe so.
Red arrows went over.
Candice, over to you. Definitely a contender for the winner of the week, this one. Has to be.
It's almost too easy, though, right? It's almost too easy. So I've got Meghan Markle, who has...
Really?
Right, let's go home, because if he doesn't win, honestly, God, man.
It's a done deal.
But who knew a cooking show could be this offensive?
Yeah.
I don't think I've read a good review yet.
No.
Although the best line I read about it was that Meghan likes to take care of her guests and leaves them flowers by their bedside, but also a sick bucket for vomiting after eating
that's
all
what you would want. Yeah. I mean, you're a food man. Come on, let's have your...
It is offensive to those of us who can actually cook what is happening.
Isn't it?
Can I say that it's offensive to your everyday parents who... Their kitchen isn't some contrived mansion with perfection. You have pictures of your kids stuck on the fridge or magnets or stuff on the floor or something. When I saw her go, it's a nice thing to do is to make a plate of fruit and you can use yogurt for clouds. Cottage cheese, you numpty. But anyway, not that I mean... because... Any person, any working woman in this world's going to go, yeah. Honestly, 6:30 on a Tuesday morning, I've got time to make a plate of fruit. She's the most divorced human being from reality.
Kids aren't going to appreciate that.
Even all of the moments that we've seen so far, I'm not going to watch it. I can't bring myself to. But let's have a look at this one. This is her supposedly getting it wrong, but I think this is stunted up as well. Check it out.
Yeah. So put this on top.
Okay. It doesn't have to be such a hefty plate, right? But I think if you have a plate this large, this is a two-man job.
And then on the count of 3, I'm gonna flip it over and we can hold on to it together.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Oh, teamwork makes the dream work.
No.
This way. 1, 2, 3. Okay, ready?
I think it's...
Flip, don't burn.
Yeah, I don't even know what it is. It looks like it's some kind of Spanish omelette, which if it is a Spanish omelette, you could have taken it out in its entirety anyway without flipping it upside down.
But I mean,
if you had to,
it shows that nobody on that show understands food or presentation, because why would you choose to flip from a cast iron pan onto a heavy piece of marble?
Right.
That's just lunacy.
It's mad.
But there's not much cooking in the show. There's a lot of sort of arranging vegetables and, pretty...
I'm told at one point she takes some pretzels out of a bag and puts them in another bag.
And labels it.
Right, and then puts some labelled pretzels on it. I mean, what?
I'm really struggling. Put a cardigan,
but it sounds good.
She put a cardigan on and walked down into the garden to pick some mint.
Right.
Honestly, I got home and my wife went, "Are you serious? Are you absolutely having it? I've got things being thrown at 6 o'clock." Just on a level, you think to yourself, does nobody just whisper in her ear, "Mate, this is the most out of touch, fake, non-understandable rubbish." I think it's the worst.
It might become, as Steve says, I suppose, the chance it becomes a cult classic because it's so bad.
What classic?
Yeah. Cult. I said cult.
Sorry.
Begins with S.
I mean, maybe season 2 we could have her in a stained dressing gown, pair of slippers, scratching a bum,
Yeah.
farting, while making a bacon
single mum.
sandwich.
You know, single mum. Harry's gone.
I got slaughtered 5 years ago by saying on the show, within 5 years, he will be back in England with his ginger tail between his legs and she'll be in California with those 2 children milking it. She's an absolute disgrace. I can't have it. Leave something because you don't want to be part of it, but don't spend your life trying to make money out of slagging it off.
She doesn't want you to call her Meghan Markle anymore.
What does she want to be now?
Have a look at this.
Meghan
Check this. I've seen this.
In a conversation with Mindy Kaling, Meghan reveals a new shocker about her name.
I don't think anyone in the world knows that Meghan Markle has eaten Jack in the Box and loves it.
It's so funny, too, that you keep saying Meghan Markle. You know I'm Sussex now.
She says Meghan's eaten Jack in the Box. Who's Jack? And why did she eat him in the box?
Well, Jack in the Box actually is a fast food chain in America.
Oh, that's all right.
Which is what nobody, apart from people in America,
Do you think
would
she's
know.
had Jack in her box?
I would imagine so. Yeah.
I have a female friend who went to Five Guys and came out terribly depressed. He had some chips.
Have you ever seen the thing she did for Men's Health, where she was barbecuing burgers in a very what can only be described as lascivious manner? This is before she met.
Yes.
She's sort of licking her lips.
I have
She's
seen
wearing a cut-off T-shirt, and it's all very raunchy, very different to what she is now.
Once a year, my mates and I are very lucky to go on a Florida golf trip. And it's a very simple thing. You get up, you have a big breakfast, you play golf, and then you go back to this lovely house in the afternoon, and we spend the entire afternoon before we go for dinner watching reruns of Deal or No Deal, where she was on box 26 with it all. Honestly, unbelievable. Can't take it seriously at all.
You really can't. But of course, Harry appears in this show once, apparently. Towards the end, he's standing in the garden holding a glass of box fizz. Really? Or mimosa, as they prefer to call it.
Yeah.
But, you know, somebody sent a message into my show this week and said, maybe what Harry could do is take all those pieces of fruit and you know, just take them out to the garden and spell the word help so that you could see it from an aeroplane flying over and somebody might come and rescue him.
He can't want to be... I mean,
he can't be enjoying it, surely.
I mean, initially, I guess the attraction we don't need to lay out, right? Whipped. But after that, the embarrassment, genuinely the embarrassment, is beyond me.
It's because the wheel is turning, but the hamster is dead.
Yeah, that's a very good analogy. I like that. Steve and Alan, over to you.
This is the story of an Iraqi drug dealer who cannot be deported.
Right.
Because he's too westernised and will be viewed with suspicion over there. As opposed to over here where drug dealers... I think we don't view them with suspicion. I once got one to sign my passport application because I think it's the job that you're allowed to do, aren't they?
Yeah.
He was selling some cocaine. Which I suppose that's a bit westernised, isn't it? He should have been doing one of those classic Middle Eastern drugs.
Yeah,
of opium.
like
I don't
opium,
know
like red leb or something.
But the issue is...
Sorry, can we just refer to the 80s pothead over here?
Thank you very much.
Those are the days. So yeah, he was going to be deported because he got arrested for all this drug stuff.
Right.
And Theresa May, when she was in charge,
This is how long ago it was, right?
Yeah.
She was Home Office. She was Secretary of State for the Home Office when he started.
That's how long it was.
Yeah.
That's 321 prime ministers ago.
Yeah.
That's how long it was.
I know.
Because it's been
Burger
like that,
King
hasn't it?
was still a prince.
That's right.
But
Nobody had ever heard of Meghan Markle.
He applied. So he was meant to be deported. He tried to appeal. That was turned down. Appealed again. That was turned down. Then tried to get some ability to stay here because he was married to a Hungarian. That was turned down. But kept going until someone came along and said, well, you can't send this guy home. He's been here so long, he's Westernised. Do you know what? If you would have deported him back in the Theresa May days, it probably wouldn't have been.
Does it not really, though, and I get to the point, even Mike thinks to get angry, does it not get to a point where we laugh at ourselves in this country, that we are paying tax so that lefty lawyers can keep people like that in this country that are criminals? It's an absolute joke.
Well, you know, we do a thing now, because there's a story
it.
like this every day. We call it Migrant of the Day, right? My favourite one this week.
Migrant of the Day?
Migrant of the Day.
Brilliant.
Was a Nigerian psychopath, by his own admission, who apparently can't be sent back to Nigeria. I kid you not, because he's possessed. Oh my God. Right? So he's possessed by the devil.
Right.
And apparently back in Nigeria, they don't look too kindly on that, and it might impair his ability to get a job there. Similarly, there was a Jamaican armed robber who also couldn't be sent back to Jamaica because now that he's served time for being an armed robber, it might impinge on his likelihood of getting a job. In Jamaica.
So better to stay here and live off benefits.
Yeah, exactly.
Dan Timpson's at no time, when he'll be...
he'll get the keys to your house, no problem at all.
When the first stories, because the Telegraph were doing loads of these, weren't they? When it was
they're getting one a day.
Nuggets one, and then
nothing tops that.
it's brilliant, wasn't it? But on the first one, you think, well, it's one case, and then by the end of the week, you think, it's a handful of cases. Now we're about 4,000 cases in. You're like,
it's a lot.
It's a trend.
It's a lot. There's an El Salvadorian couple this week as well, who are apparently from rival gangs in El Salvador. which used to be a very violent place, but guess what? Isn't as violent anymore because they started locking people up and taking people off the streets and punishing them properly. So now it's actually quite good.
Isn't that the plot of Romeo and Juliet, effectively?
Similarly, yeah. Or West Side Story. Yeah. West Side Story, El Salvador style. But so they can't be sent back because rival gang members might kill other members of their relationship might not last in El Salvador. I mean, this is a joke, isn't it?
This is cynical. This is cynical from those lawyers, like you were saying. It's lucrative, and they
How
just
do we allow
don't
that to
care.
happen, though, Candice? I don't understand.
And
why
a lot of it is all
somebody
coming from just one or two particular immigration panel lawyers who are obviously
Can you imagine Trump allowing that to happen in the United States of America? He'd sack those judges within 1 minute.
I bet there's an advert somewhere on social media that's not been aimed at us. It's like, have you been involved in a deportation and it was your fault?
Yes.
Call now.
Right.
Absolutely.
No win, no fee.
Yeah.
Well,
No win, no visa.
Say that, but there's actually probably people down at Dover handing out business cards to these guys saying, there's your phone, there's your blanket, there's your free pizza.
No win, no visa.
Yeah, no win, no visa. Here's the number you ring.
Grifting.
0800. Take the piss.
Using lawyers to fight deportation might be the most westernised thing you can do. So in that side, he was right. He's very westernised.
Yeah. Apparently he might be beheaded if he goes back to Iraq.
We'd stop drug dealing.
Am I the only one to say good?
Yeah.
Or am I
don't think that's a bad thing.
Might be.
Mark Wogan,
Yes.
you have Qatar Airways for us.
I do have Qatar Airways.
Speaking of beheading.
Well,
why don't you get some Sudafed?
So they've got an interesting in-flight policy.
Right.
If somebody pops their clogs.
Right.
So there was a flight from Doha to Italy.
Okay.
There was a lovely Australian couple on it.
Yeah.
A gentleman called Mitchell Ring.
Oh, I've had that as well.
And yes, you get a cream for that.
And his wife, Mrs. Ring.
Mr. and Mrs. Ring.
Mr. and Mrs. Ring.
No longer.
I won't hear that tone from
Not
you.
like Colgate, not the Ring of Confidence. But so they were travelling, going on a lovely trip to Italy.
Yeah.
And they're about 10 hours into the flight, and this woman comes out of the loo and collapses and dies in the aisle. Now,
Did they ring anybody?
well, it was very sad. That bit was very sad, obviously.
Lower the tone.
Mitchell was interviewed after his
Ring.
traumatic thing. Yeah, Mitchell Ring. And he said, they tried to wheel her up towards business class, but she was quite a large lady and they couldn't get her through the aisle.
Where's he
So,
from?
Crikey, mate.
He's from Yeovil. He's from Yeovil. Right? So they said, would you mind moving over? To which he went, no problem.
Oh, my God.
And they just stuck her in the seat next to him for 4 hours.
Where was the wife?
4 hours?
She was next to him. They were interviewed on TV. She was inconsolable.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
His wife.
What did they...
Mrs. Ring.
Did they cover...
Oh, the dead lady was inconsolable.
There was no
Did they cover her with
but
anything?
when they landed as well, he went to get up and said, no, stay where you are. while we deal with this.
Was there any food served during the trip?
Yeah, by Meghan Markle.
Meghan Markle came
Can you
with
imagine
a really
lying there
heavy...
next to a corpse? Would you like the chicken or the beef? I always say to them, well, it depends what sort of chicken it is or what sort of beef it is.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I know some of you highfalutin types will be in places where they have a menu, but, you know, when you're in economy and they just offer you beef or chicken.
What's the choice? Yes or no?
Well, yeah.
So back to it. So they put a dead woman next to a couple called Ring from Australia.
The Rings.
And
the Rings who are going for a romantic trip to Italy.
Yeah.
Did it ruin everything?
Yes.
She, the equivalent of a female Pavarotti, died suddenly coming out of the toilet, and she was made. They put the corpse on the chair.
Yeah, they were in a row of 4. There was 2 spare seats.
This is what happens when you're 2 or 4. You see.
They thought they'd nailed it. We've got the row of 4. There's no one else.
And then somebody rang in the changes.
Yeah, and the cadaver gets dumped next to them.
That's enough of that sort of stuff. We'll come back to those stories. Coming up next.
Can we not come back to that?
That man, Miliband, Ed Miliband, or is it David? We'll find out. Coming up next on Plank of the Week. Welcome back to Plank of the Week. Well, that's a pretty lively start, I have to say. I'm not sure if we've already got a winner, maybe, in those first 4. Coming up, let us talk about Ed Miliband, Ed Millipede, if you like, the man who is now up against it in his own party and in cabinet because all of his net zero lies are starting to come home to roost. You know, we found out this week, for example, that it costs £180,000 an hour right, to not to run wind farms. They've opened up all these wind farms up and down the country, some of them in the sea, and they've decided that quite often they have to pay them not to operate, which seems to me to be one of the most ridiculous things.
£125 million a month, £1.5 billion a year to turn off wind turbines because they don't have the facility to store it. Meanwhile, right, the land grab continues. We'll screw the farmers, put up the solar panels, but it'll be too expensive. We'll have to import it and the prices will treble. I think he's worse than even... is anybody worse than Starmer? I think he's an absolute terror. I think he is a danger to this country.
He is, absolutely.
This money that they're spending on net zero is a joke, man.
Right.
A joke.
So this is called a constraint payment, right? Yeah. And what they do is they have to balance the grid. And so, as you say, £252 million it's cost so far. And this is up from £158 million over the same period last year. So they still haven't worked out how to store it in this power.
And turning, ironically, off the heating allowance for pensioners was £1.5 billion.
The way I look at it is that I don't have a wind farm, therefore I'm never turning it on, which means I'm owed a lot of money for not running a wind farm.
Well, maybe you should put a windmill up and then claim monies that you can have
pay off my mortgage.
You could.
No, let's not be silly.
But I mean,
worst form of energy.
This is the other thing. They've also started this new organisation. They used to have a thing called the National Grid, but they're sort of slowly phasing out the National Grid and replacing it with some entity which is another government-funded quango, basically. And they've put a guy in charge of it who used to be in charge of the air traffic control system, which you might remember wasn't very good last year, I think it was, or the year before, when it went out of order and thousands of people were stranded around the world.
On a serious note, I don't understand why... I mean, I understand this sort of ideology, but I don't understand how, when your country's financially in the mess that we're in, how this is allowed to happen.
I know.
Even politicians that would be the opposite to what I believe in would surely go, well, hold on a minute, we've got pensioners freezing to death. You've got veterans on the street. Farmers are being screwed. The NHS on its backside. Why are we spending billions of quid on doing something that apparently makes us look good in the world, but then ours is one of the least amounts of carbon money? It's ridiculous.
Do you know what if we dropped into the ocean, if the UK dropped into the ocean and disappeared forever, do you know what difference it would make?
None.
Just over 2%.
Yeah. Well, which is margin of error, actually, isn't it? So this operation is called the National Energy System Operator, the organisation that pays out all this money. And do you know who funds it? People who pay electricity bills. So when you look down your bill, you'll see it says that it's entirely funded by consumers. This whole organisation. Yeah. This guy's six-figure salary, all the other people that work for it, and all of the money.
What was the bloke you did the impression of the other week? Helmut. What was his name?
Oh, yeah, no, Helmut. This is the guy who's in charge of GB Energy.
Oh, it's amazing. He's got no office, no staff, he hasn't got a phone.
Hasn't even got a website.
What's he called?
Jürgen.
Hello, Jürgen.
Jürgen Mayer.
I think I preferred Helmut.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I think he might well be a Jürgen.
But, I mean, this guy and Miliband, he can't last, surely. I mean, we've got so many people in the cabinet, we keep saying they can't last.
It'd be really interesting to see whether Starmer wakes up to the reality. Yeah. It's a serious point here. And goes, Ed Miliband's a laughing stock at home and probably abroad. David Lammy is the worst foreign secretary in the world. Yeah. Is this man going to wake up and go, actually, these people aren't up to it, or is he as bad as them? I don't know. But, Ed Miliband is a national
He's got to get rid of some of them, hasn't he? You have to say. Let's have a look at what Donald Trump thinks about wind farms.
The wind blows and then it doesn't blow and the things cost a fortune. They're made in China and they kill the birds and they're horrible. We don't want windmills in this country. We're putting an order on it. I've already sort of done it. We don't want windmills. If you have a house and you're in vision of a windmill, your house is worth half.
I love him so much.
I know. But you know what?
Literally half the value of millions of houses.
But you know, well, also, the latest wheeze that they had, and this came back end of last week, I think, they've decided that because they're killing too many birds with the windmills, the birds are flying into them because they're white, they're going to paint them black.
Oh, my God.
So planes flying to them.
But can you imagine? I mean, if you look at one of those big wind farms, like the one down in southeast England, down in just off Dungeness.
Yes.
You see it, and when you see it from the hills of Sussex, it actually doesn't look that bad. It looks sort of vaguely dreamy. But if you paint them all black, it'll look really sinister and horrible. And also, who's going to paint the ones in the sea? How are you going to get somebody out to the ones in the sea?
There is a chance the ones in the sea should just be put on reverse so they actually blow, and then all of those boats would be blown back a little bit.
Yeah, what you mean, the migrants? Yeah.
Why
good
don't the
idea.
migrants stop and be forced to paint
Yes.
the windmills?
That's
in
a
the
good
sea?
idea.
Yes,
Yeah.
paint the windmills.
If you
You
on
can
the way
only
through.
come in
Yeah.
if you can paint it and
If
then
you can-
get to the shore.
If you can finish painting one windmill, you get a free asylum.
Yeah.
It's sort of like painting the fourth
And then you have
bridge.
some other
like a
people.
cabinet
Then you can have
meeting,
some other people shooting at them while they're up there. No, sorry, that's
Do
just
you
a joke.
think we sound marginally more sensible than a cabinet?
We actually do. It
I
actually
think we're
is.
more representative of the United Kingdom.
is.
You can cook, you can make people
Yes,
laugh.
yes.
You're a fantastic mother and a brilliant journalist. You're a tremendous broadcaster with real ability, and I'm just here because I'm lucky.
Oh, he's got that false modesty thing. He doesn't believe a word of it.
I actually do that.
Now,
That's
listen,
why I thought you were here.
speaking of false modesty, how about the BBC?
Again,
Another great week
another
for
one
them.
of those, another one of those ones where you go right. So the BBC almost on a weekly basis. There's still sort of this week. There's still some sort of moments left about that Gaza documentary. It turned out this week that in fact one of the most senior executives of the BBC had watched the entirety.
The Furness woman.
Yeah,
Barbara Furness, I think it is.
Deborah Furness.
Deborah Furness, sorry.
Who used to work at
ITV.
ITV. She used to run ITV News, unless I'm completely wrong, but she saw the whole thing and it was passed. And it was also said this week that the BBC management were aware, certain stratas of it, that money went to this family of this Hamas terrorist.
Who worked for Hamas.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that wasn't really what... I mean, if that wasn't enough for you to do it, my other favourite story is the BBC. Rupert Lowe, that amazing young man who used to run Southampton, has been a successful businessman, Southampton Football Club, and is now one of 5 Reform MPs, has called for the BBC licence fee to be finally chucked in the bin where it should be after they've advertised for a head of diversity on their careers.
Of course they have,
ladies and gentlemen. This is the position which takes home £125,000 a year, assumes responsibility to execute a comprehensive plan to implement and deliver the BBC's workforce DEI. Website notes that the future head of diversity will be responsible for the development. It's basically a load of crap.
Yes.
And there's about 8 lines saying what it's going to do. And you look at that and you go, right, so let me get this absolutely right. In a world where we all, in whatever broadcasting we do, have to justify to the people that will buy adverts by getting an audience, that's the way it works, or clicks online, we're still paying £172 a year to an organisation that doesn't have to justify what it does, that is our state broadcaster and is definitely biased, right? Is giving money to Hamas terrorists. Fact has found it impossible to discover that you've got Jimmy Savile, Rolf Harris, and that walking paedophile Hugh Edwards in your midst.
Right.
All of that.
Who this week, by the way, it was revealed cannot and will not pay back the 200,000 quid that he owes.
Our money again.
Right?
I think that I don't understand it without actually getting angry. I don't understand how the BBC is fit for purpose anymore, and I genuinely think within 5 years it has. I don't think it can last. I don't think the business model works.
But why are we still taking up all this DEI stuff? I mean, America's pretty much just cast it off now.
Yeah.
They don't want it.
Because
and
it's
yet,
sexist, misogynistic, racist, and homophobic.
The thing about the BBC is it is an organisation in which you do not have to succeed to remain.
No.
It's the opposite of a meritocracy, so therefore they have to have a bit of DEI going on to enable it to continue.
Yeah.
Because you can't, it's so hard to get
It's
fired.
just too big, isn't it?
You can touch kids
Yeah.
and not get fired from the BBC.
Yeah, exactly right.
In fact, as you said, almost the opposite.
Continue to be paid. Also, you've got all of these ridiculous sort of sections of it. I mean, you get on a plane, for example. I can't remember who it was I was flying with. It might have been British Airways, and they've got a whole news channel which is put on, which has nothing to do with BBC World, nothing to do with BBC News or BBC Parliament. A completely separate operation to do just a news station for an airline. And you have all these people that.
So what was the beginning of the end for the BBC?
The beginning of the end for the BBC.
24-hour news.
Yeah.
That's when it all started to go wrong, when they decided to compete with Sky, and there was no point.
Yes. Well, do you know when that guy Burt was in charge as well?
Oh, yes.
I mean, he was
He loved a bit of middle
He started
management.
selling everything off, didn't he? He sold off all the prop departments. He sold
Burt,
off,
right?
started going to outside production companies.
I mean, there's some lovely flats in Acton now where the whole prop department used to be.
I wonder actually genuinely, I know some people will say they watch it for the drama still and all that, but I don't think people would probably watch the BBC for the news anymore. But more than that, I do think that people are hacked off to the point. That's our state broadcast, and we don't have a choice. And you have to pay for everything else. It doesn't work.
Exactly right. And the thing about Hugh Edwards, we said this week, they'll happily send somebody to your house if you haven't paid the licence fee and you're an old woman and they'll start harassing you, knocking on the door and going back and back and back. But they won't go and see Hugh Edwards and say, give us the 200 grand.
Why not, do you think? Why not? Again, that, to me, I never understand that would work really well in terms of your audience.
He might be in his pants.
That's the worry, isn't it?
Or with no pants at all.
He'll be in his pants.
Or with no pants. like that picture. We all
He
didn't
should be
see.
in jail.
Using the phrase
I just threw up in my own mouth.
You don't want to
Tim
hear that.
Davey, yeah, News at 11. Tim Davey was up before the Beak against this week. He was up against the Culture, Media and Sport Committee, being asked about some of this stuff and the Gaza thing, which he said was like a dagger to the heart of the BBC. Maybe he should have told that to the production company. But here's what he said. This will make you laugh.
We have trust numbers that we're very proud of. We're the most trusted brand in the world. And part of what we do to earn that trust, and believe me, it's never an easy day, is actually be highly transparent and go through enormous processes when we fail like this to show how we're going to fix it, and we're very transparent about that.
They haven't fired anyone. They're not transparent about how it was seen by so many people at the BBC and yet allowed the documentary to go out. They haven't
most trusted brand
They
in the
haven't
world.
told us where the money's actually gone. No. And they're not the most trusted brand in Britain. They might be the most trusted brand in Gaza. Not here.
I also think Tim might wear lycra at the weekend.
I think he might well do.
Do you know what bothers me about that? Because that documentary was narrated by the relative
Abdullah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as someone who earns money through voiceovers, I can't believe I'm behind terrorist relatives these days.
Yeah, I know.
But in the old days, I couldn't get a voiceover on the BBC because I wasn't Scottish. But now,
just tell you joined the Provisional IRA or something, you might get a look in there.
Yeah.
Candice, over to you.
Well, this is, I think, the third time I'm nominating her, Rachel Reeves.
And you say the third time. It's funny you say that because she is, of course, known as Richard III.
Well,
it is unbelievable. It's uncanny. It's uncanny.
I think she's escaping quite a bit of scrutiny at the moment with
Yeah.
everything that's going on in
Right.
the world. But she's about to deliver an absolute quadruple whammy to the British economy. This job tax is coming in.
Yeah.
They're reducing stamp duty. They're upping business levies, and there's going to be some green taxes as well. And everyone's saying to her, no, don't do this.
Right.
This is like the worst possible thing you could do. There's going to be no growth and a huge loss of jobs. But they're carrying on, and I feel like she's sort of hiding behind I'm a big world hero, and everyone's forgotten about a mess she's making of things.
Also, she suddenly turned into this massive arms dealer. She now wants to buy up all the arms in the world and give it all to Ukraine. And she's going, now we're going to have to cut back on public services. The NHS is going to suffer. Welfare she's going to go after. All because apparently Keir Starmer says we have to arm Ukraine. Although now that Trump says he's not going to do that, we're not sure what.
You wonder why when you think about Miliband and Net Zero, and you think about her and what she's doing with the budget, you think about Lammy. Why is it only now, apparently, they're focused on what matters to the people of the United Kingdom, the things that matter in our country?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's mad.
I can see two or three of the biggest people in that cabinet losing their jobs.
Well, the problem for Starmer, though, is if he starts firing all these people that he appointed, he only really has to fire them when he feels like it's untenable, like they've actually maybe done something terribly bad. But the problem for Rachel Reeves is that, like Starmer, 3 weeks ago, nobody was talking about peace in Ukraine. No. Until Donald Trump decided to introduce it as a subject to talk about, nobody even thought about it.
She needs to do something about the Bob and the Fringe. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. She really does.
But Starmer doesn't fire anybody until it becomes so painfully obvious that he has to.
I mean, what about that?
when he can't get out.
You know that Tulip for Deep that he held on with, I mean, turns out her aunt's one of the worst the Prime Minister banged torturing people. And they were, did you know about that then, Sir Keir, did you?
Yeah.
But they're posing as patriots, and yet they've taken down portraits of all the most amazing people.
I think
but did you not see again when Starmer was in the Oval Office? He congratulated Donald Trump for bringing back the bust of Churchill, which Biden had removed. Right, this is the same guy who's removed Churchill paintings from his own office.
Yeah,
I mean, the hypocrisy is out there for
everyone
to see.
You know, when he sort of kissed Trump's backside for about 10 minutes, and everybody sort of said, "Well done," but it's sort of, as you said, Mikey, in the end, it looked like a kid being caught out. It looked like he just was being used. By
he's like
Donald
looking
Trump,
around, like that meme of the guy from Pulp Fiction, John Travolta, but he's just kind of looking around like this. How about this though? There's another thing that they've started up called the National Wealth Fund.
I love the way that
Rachel Thieves, and apparently it's meant to be given money by outside interests, so it's not all government money, but so far it's only government money, and they haven't been able to get anybody else to put any money in. But apparently they've given £43.5 million in direct equity into a company that's making paper bottles.
Oh, God. It's such financial folly. It really is. Could you get any worse than paper bottles? I thought you couldn't get any
paper
lower
straws
than paper
don't work.
straws.
I mean, how's a bottle? You're going to start drinking? It's all going to start falling out the end
quickly. Quickly. Drink it really quickly.
really quickly, like down in one.
Again, unless I'm getting really old, does nobody go, that's a really crap idea?
Yeah.
That's a waste of money. That's going to go down like a lead balloon.
Next, we're going to make an investment into a concrete parachute.
Yes, that's a very good idea. I'd go for that. Paper straws, I think, were outlawed as part of the inauguration speech by Donald Trump, weren't they? Because plastic straws work, paper straws don't. This is effectively a massive paper straw, which has got a bottom on it. You're supposed to pour liquid in, and it's not supposed to leak.
Why is a bedpan cardboard, though?
Well, that's cardboard. That's something different.
They still go soggy in the end, don't they?
Yeah, you've got to empty those.
I think we should have plastic bedpans.
How many times are you trying to reuse the bedpan?
What?
How many times are you trying to reuse that bedpan? In and out. Don't worry
Yeah,
about
but probably
it.
used to be stainless
But I bet you the reason for that will be
the
reason for that will be that it is
coldness of stainless steel.
Oh yeah, but it's also sustainable.
You were alive.
Some idiot in the NHS would have said it's sustainable.
But I guarantee a paper bottle will still have the cap attached to the bottle by a little piece of flipping.
Of course, yeah.
They're all
So,
tethered these days. So
maybe
it
it'll have a
falls down your
plastic
front.
top.
Yeah.
That'll probably be right. Coming up, we've got what have we got? Rachel Reeves has just been done. We've got Wokingham Council and Lambeth Council, two councils. Blimey, let's have a go. This is Plank of the Week. Welcome back to Plank of the Week. It's time for Mr. Steve and Alan, your second nomination.
Yes, the worst council you're going to hear about today, Wokingham Council, because they've banned a phrase. You can't say hard-working families because it might upset jobless people.
Yes.
You wouldn't want to upset the jobless. You don't want to upset the workshop.
No.
You don't want to offend.
Because they're already upset.
the feckless. You wouldn't want to say something cruel about the lazy. That's what I'm trying to say here. And the worst thing you could do is call families hard-working, because then it apparently implies that people without jobs aren't hard-working families, which it doesn't, does it? I mean, it implies you're not working, I suppose.
Right. What about working
system,
people?
really?
Because that's all we hear from staff. Working people. Is that not offensive then, under the same rules?
But
what do you call a hard-working person instead?
Well, you don't, apparently. You wouldn't. You
just go
Polish.
You can't say. But, I mean, they could have an argument here that some families, it's not like everyone in the family's hardworking. You know, I've got a toddler, he's not pulling his weight.
No.
So we're not hardworking.
No.
I mean, teenagers, I've heard about them.
No, definitely not. No,
I've got an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
Students.
Ladies want lunch.
I've got a wife who's at home all day with just 2 kids. She's not pulling away.
Yeah. You might want to edit that out. Yeah. You might want to edit that out.
It's the hardest job in the world.
Yeah.
Good save.
I did it for a weekend, by the way. She went away last weekend. I did it in 40. I nearly went to bloody rehab on
I know.
Monday.
It's a nightmare.
Knackered. I couldn't even ring Mike all weekend.
I used to hate that.
We're all crazy.
Hats
with
off
kids
to all
under
women,
5.
bar Megan Sussex.
They should only be allowed to do this, though, if they found one family who's complained.
Yeah.
If you find someone who's actually, if they turn up to get their cash and go, actually, you know what, keep that because I'm offended by you calling other people hardworking. It's never going to happen.
I'm surprised nobody said yet that Wokingham Council's gone woke.
With it, I mean, what's his name from the Free Speech Union? Toby Jones.
Yes.
He's
Toby Jones.
Not Jones. Toby Young.
Toby Young.
Toby Jones from that thing about the post office.
Yeah, you've obviously not paid much attention to that.
Would. Yeah, Toby. I'm allowed to get his name wrong. It's free speech.
He's Lord Young, I think.
Oh, that's true. But again, I'm allowed to not
speech
say that because it's free speech. He pointed out that Woking just needs to drop the last syllable in there.
Yeah.
I mean, Woking are already one step nearer. So.
Yeah. Isn't Wokingham where Prince Andrew went for pizza?
No, that was Woking. And there is actually, because Vic's family's in it, there's actually is it a plaque or a plaque?
A plaque.
Plaque
Plaque is what you have on your teeth.
I know. There's a plaque outside, and it says, Stinky had a pizza in. It doesn't say that, but that's where he didn't sweat.
Okay. I used to play golf in Wokingham, I think.
Which golf course?
Story.
I can't
remember.
This council...
West End.
Woking and Woking, very different people.
Yeah.
I know
very
different.
Yeah, Woking and very
this
different.
This means nothing to anybody living north of Watford, by the way.
Before I stop moaning about this council, they've also banned the terms blacklist and whitewash because they might be racist if you misunderstand what the words mean. Because that's the only way you can tell
Do you
they're
play
racist.
blackjack then when you go to a casino?
You don't.
How dare
you play
you, sir.
21 or pontoon.
Apparently.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pontoon?
There are no
You can't
casinos
say that
in
these days.
Wokingham.
There's no casinos in Woking.
You don't have to worry. Right, we've got more council news with Mark Wogan.
Lambeth.
Yes.
Doing the
Lambeth.
The gift that keeps giving.
Yes.
So if you happen to live in Lambeth and you have a driveway, you will be charged £7,000 if you don't have a dropped piece of pavement in front of it.
What?
In other words, it's not a legal access point because there is not a dropped pavement. So they're going to charge.
What does that mean?
Well, you know, where the pavement goes like
you
that,
mean like
so
the
you can
curb?
drive. Yeah, a
So
curb.
there's a
dropped
bit
curb.
there, so the curb goes down. Yeah.
Denoting an entranceway.
Right.
Where it's quite obvious there's a drive in front of the house, there's a car parked on
Yeah.
it, it's outside their house, it's theirs.
Right.
But because they are mounting an undropped curb, £7,000 a year.
Shouldn't you be able to ask the council to come and put a dropped curb in because you've got a driveway? That's the way
Yeah,
around
they'll
it should
probably
be.
charge you £12
Yeah, but that's
to
the
do
way
it.
it should be around because they work for us, remember, supposedly.
Do they? Oh, is that
then-
what council tax is?
Yeah.
Oh, I
yeah, they're
see. I didn't
supposed to
understand
provide a
that.
service to those of us who actually pay their wages and pay for everything.
They're the ones who provide.
Is that like road tax and they maintain the roads?
Yeah.
They're the ones who provide the black bins, which is the
by
most
the way,
racist
Can't
thing
say
you
that.
dare I?
No.
You can't say green bins. That's
They're
anti-Irish.
doubling the road tax, by the way, in April. For most people, it's going from on average to 200 to an average of 400.
I didn't realise council tax was. I just thought that.
That's nothing to do with the councils. I'm just saying that they're doing this. But,
I didn't realise
Well,
it
it's these taxes that actually allegedly have a purpose.
Yeah.
I didn't realise they did.
But my point was, while the councils are halving the space on the roads that you can actually use.
In London, you've got residence permit bags.
Yes.
You know, they always sell more of those
Yes.
than there are bays.
They do. It's exactly what they do, yeah.
Because
Do they give
go
out
on the
more
basis that
disabled
not
badges
everybody
than there
will
are
want to
disabled
park at the
bays?
same time.
Yes, very probably. Yes.
You know, every so often you get a story about some driver who wasn't paying attention and drives into someone's house.
Yeah.
Are they going to get charged an extra £7,000 on top as well?
Probably.
Because that feels like
If it wasn't a
But
drop
only
pavement.
if it's not a drop pavement, yeah.
drop pavement.
Now, we've got a video here of a man who got fed up with people parking in his driveway. Now, this is somebody who doesn't actually have the right to park there, who parks there, and then he gets hit with a sprinkler.
Good for you.
Is that water?
Amazing how petty it is. I think our neighbourhood WhatsApp is just people saying, get out of my parking space,
Yeah.
basically. No one ever
Yeah.
talks to each other
No,
nicely.
I know, it's absolutely
No
shocking.
parking between these markers.
Yes, yeah, just get lost.
slightly.
We're at the final furlong already. There's only one more to go. You're looking very puzzled,
I'm
Jeremy.
puzzled. You speak to your neighbours. You live that near to them.
He doesn't really, actually. He's only joking.
Look,
He's only
a few
joking.
acres. What's going on?
Yeah.
I wave from a distance.
Half of Berkshire or something. Anyway, coming up next, we've got more trouble in Westminster. I'll be telling you why. This is making. Welcome back to Plank of the Week. We are in the final section of the show because I've got one more nomination to do, and then we'll have to pick who's won it this year. This week even. Plank of the Year is a long way off, isn't it? Who do you think? So let me ask you, who do you think your nomination will be for Plank of the Year?
Keir Starmer.
It's got to be Starmer, isn't it? Absolutely, hands down.
Meghan Markle.
Hands down winner.
BBC. That's it. We're done.
I don't think it'll be, I think she'll be forgotten about by the summer.
Who?
Yeah, exactly. Call me Sussex, please.
Meghan Sussex.
Now, so Lindsay Hoyle is a man that I've never liked, I have to say. He came across as an incredibly pompous bloke. John Bercow, who was formerly the pompous Speaker of the House, who used to order and all that. He actually, when I met him, is not a bad guy. And nothing like his persona. But Sir Lindsay Hoyle seems to me to be much more odious, quite frankly.
I never trust a man with a bird's name.
No.
Never said it. I'm sorry.
And it was revealed this week, right, that he has spent £180,000 of taxpayers' money flying around the world on various jollies. His office put out a statement saying this money was spent on behalf of his role as an ambassador for the British Parliament, where apparently everybody's so in awe of it. That they must speak to him about how good it is and how they can.
Did he go to
manage
Serbia
replicate
and tell him not to fly?
He didn't go there. But the thing is, he went to places like Singapore and Jakarta. You went to Ottawa. That's fair enough because these are places that have got possibly parliaments that he might want to talk to. But he also went to Jordan, he went to the Cayman Islands, he went to Doha, he went to Verona in Italy, which I'm pretty sure doesn't have a parliament.
Did he go from Doha to Verona?
He sounds like a sort of...
He didn't meet two gentlemen there either.
He sounds like, with that travel schedule, he sounds like a heady mix of sort of tax dodging and sex tourist.
It does sound a bit like that.
And let's not forget that he got played by an
there's one
absolute
wrinkle
kipper,
to this
didn't
story.
he?
He went to Gibraltar several times, and on several
cigars.
occasions the accommodation was not known. So I don't know where he went in Gibraltar, because everywhere else we know where he went. For example, when he went to Verona, he stayed at the Hotel Dutori. And when he went to Brazil, he stayed at the hotel... Oh, not known, actually, sorry.
Yeah.
But you'll like this one. When he went to the Cayman Islands, he stayed in the Westin Grand Cayman 7 Mile Beach Resort and Spa, for which we were charged 22,785
How
quid.
God is that?
I mean, now he went.
It's got a spa attached, which is like a budgeons, isn't it?
Yeah, you can have his facial and all that. He goes to Singapore, right? Stays in the Shangri-La in Singapore. Very nice too. I've been to Singapore. My trip did not cost £24,920.
It's absurd. We need a Doge here. We
Yeah, we
really
do.
do. I mean, apparently we've got about 5 going on, which is very inefficient.
Yeah, but also, surely to heavens, if you're being invited by the Singapore Parliament, they got loads of money in Singapore, wouldn't they offer you a freebie and say, why don't you come and, spend some time here? Why are you paying 25,000 quid?
Completely agree.
For a trip?
He doesn't want any questions.
It is really interesting, isn't it? The Labour Party, since the Labour Party got into power, though, it's quite interesting, isn't it? Because they spent, and I thought quite rightly, the back end of the Tories saying, jobs for the boys and you spend money and it's disgrace. This lot love a freebie more than the Tories by a mile, don't they? They all love it.
Absolutely right. Now, I've got a very interesting clip for you here. Now, this is Lindsay Hoyle about to act in Emmerdale.
But in his very latest role,
Order!
The only thing he's ordering is a cup of Yorkshire tea.
Just said that was a lovely cup of tea.
He was invited to appear on the soap after hosting Emmerdale's cast and crew at a Westminster reception, where they presented him with a pair of wellies.
These were brand new Wellingtons, so they were sprayed with mud, all prepared. And of course, I walked into the cafe.
The Speaker's star turn was actually filmed last May.
I mean, this is the trouble. These are the people we're having to deal with that run this country. I mean, what about narcissistic?
Can I point something out? This is true. He stopped Nigel Farage asking a question about those terrorists in Southport, right? He deliberately, was done. I think he's under the control of Starmer.
Yeah.
And we're paying money for him to fly to the Shangri-La and go and appear in a pair of... Did he say Willies or Wellies? It sounded like Willies.
Yeah, Willies.
Willies. You get me Willies on. He represents Chorley, doesn't he?
Get me Wellies, they can't run away.
He is Chorley.
Yeah, I can't have them. I think they're all taking
He's
advantage
awful.
big time.
Yeah,
He's awful.
He really is awful, and he should be ashamed of himself. Ottawa, May, June 2023, the Hotel Fairmont Chateau Laurier. I know that hotel. It's very expensive. It's very nice, but most people can't afford to pay for it.
Why is that bugger turned up in his Wellingtons in Ottawa?
And here's another one for you, right? The follow-up story to the first story was that they discovered in one of the trips that he made, he charged an extra £500 because he wanted to take an extra suitcase with him. Now, why is he taking an extra suitcase with him if he's not filling it up with, all manner of loot?
That is how much they charge on EasyJet.
I actually know the answer to this.
Outfits.
Yeah, special
outfits. Speakers' outfits. Don't get all...
You can get a big dragon of...
He's going to take his robes and other speakers are going to meet in the Shangri-La in Singapore and dress each other up.
So not the kind of clothes that you need tout to put on.
No, absolutely not.
In
Jordan...
I
love Candice. Yeah, but the fact I didn't know what he meant. You did.
In Jordan, he stayed at the Four Seasons.
I bet he did.
That's nice.
Come on, Carl, you know exactly what I mean.
I mean, absolutely...
I have to use that to put my underwear on.
Absolutely unbelievable. Now, I would have made Lindsay Hoyle the plank of the week, but I'm sorry. I think it's between Starmer and Meghan, isn't it? Meghan Sussex. It's got to be Starmer, isn't it?
Has it or has it? Is the Meghan thing not gone everywhere?
I suppose Meghan has to be
in terms of not just in terms of Starmer always winning, but yesterday when it came out, I think the whole world literally went.
I'd leave Starmer in the field.
Yes,
where he belongs.
Okay, no, I take that on board.
I mean, you cannot deny how toe curling.
And it is awful, and it also is kind of Meghan Markle week, isn't it? Because
Meghan Sussex, don't be disrespectful.
Sussex, sorry. Does that mean we have to call him Harry?
My kids are called Sussex and so on. It's just such an
Does this mean we have to call Harry?
Shut up, you horrible woman.
Does this mean we have to call him Harry Sussex then? That's not his name, is it?
No.
Isn't it Wales?
I thought it was.
Well, he was Harry Wales, but before I think originally Harry Windsor.
Oh, yeah.
Does he have a surname? I thought they didn't have surnames.
Well, Windsor is the family name.
Markle, that's his surname.
Markle.
Yeah.
Harry Markle.
Harry Markle,
Mrs. Markle.
Yeah.
I'm surprised she didn't go for like Sussex Markle and Meghan go double barrel.
Yeah. I know.
That's very true.
Absolutely unbelievable. Yeah, well, I think in that case, I think it's an open and shut case for Meghan Markle.
That's what she had on that TV show.
Can I just say that somebody texted me and said she's wrong about the yoghurt, by the way. If you use cottage cheese for clouds, that's much better. What are people doing with their lives?
I know. It's unbelievable. Well, there we are. For the first time in a while, actually. We haven't done it. It's time for the plank. And it's for you, Meghan Sussex Markle, whatever. Well done. Plank of the week. Thank you to Jeremy. Thank you to Candice. Thank you for Steve and Alan. And, of course, Mark Wogan as well. Thank you very much indeed. We'll see you same time next week for more plankery.